Now, a high-profile judicial hearing began today as the Judicial Conduct Tribunal opens proceedings into serious misconduct allegations against Western Cape High Court Judge Mushtak Parker. Judge Parker stands accused of lying under oath and submitting a false affidavit, which claims that he was physically assaulted by former Judge President John Hlophe. The hearing, set to take place virtually, follows complaints filed by 10 judges of the Western Cape High Court along with the Cape Bar Council. To speak more on this, we've now roped in Research and Advocacy Officer at Judges Matter, Mbekezeli Benjamin, to weigh in on this matter. Mbekezeli, a very good afternoon to you and thank you so much for your time. So, Judge Parker stands accused of lying under oath, essentially, and submitting a false affidavit. As Judges Matter, just speak to us about just how significant these accusations are and, I mean, the consequences they hold in as far as judicial accountability is concerned.
Good afternoon, Onati, and good afternoon to the viewers. There is no more serious accusation than to say that a judge is lying. And we, as Judges Matter, are quite concerned about the seriousness of these allegations that Judge Parker is facing. He is accused of lying in two ways, really. The first one is that in February of 2019, he submitted a statement to say that former Judge John Hlophe assaulted him at the High Court building. And then a year later, in February of 2020, he submitted another statement to say that he misremembered. He did not believe that he was correctly understanding the events of the alleged assault, and so he retracted that statement. So he either was lying the first time when he said Judge Hlophe assaulted him, or is lying the second time to say that Judge Hlophe didn't assault him. So that's the first complaint. The second complaint is by the Cape Bar Council, and they allege that Judge Parker didn't disclose information that he needed to disclose when he was interviewing to be a judge. So he had a trust account deficit, or the money in his attorney's trust account, some of it was missing. And he didn't explain to the JSC that there was this issue and that he needed to be investigated by the Legal Practice Council. And so the allegation is that by not disclosing that information, that was another lie. And for all of those lies, he is unfit to be a judge. And that is the seriousness of this allegation. And if, in fact, he is found guilty, he stands to be impeached.
And in terms of just, other consequences he might face, I mean, can you speak around those matters? Because there is this one process, but I would imagine there's other processes that could emanate from this, given just the seriousness of these accusations.
Yes, so there are multiple processes that are going on. The Judicial Conduct Tribunal is investigating him because he is a judge. But the Legal Practice Council as well is taking action against his former partners at the law firm to try and get to the bottom of what happened with the trust account. And that actually was evidence that was included in this tribunal process. But the most serious really consequence for him is this issue of the Judicial Conduct Tribunal, because today they were hearing closing arguments from the evidence leaders and the complainants on what should happen. And both parties were arguing quite strongly to say that Judge Parker must be found guilty of gross misconduct, and the recommendation must then follow from the Judicial Service Commission that he must be impeached and removed from office. And so that process is what is currently happening. But ultimately, it will be up to the Judicial Service Commission on whether or not they find him guilty. Unfortunately, Judge Parker didn't put up any defense. He didn't put up any version to try and explain what happened or to try and dispute any of the evidence. So as we speak, there is a very strong case against him, and I think it will be a huge mountain for him to climb to try and prove that he's not guilty of gross misconduct, or that he shouldn't be impeached and removed from office.
In the event that he does say something, I mean, one would imagine that he would want to present himself, in ever which way he wants to. I mean, what would you like to see him say? I mean, this is a serious crime. It's also very significant in that 10 judges, coming out to accuse you of, as you say it, this cardinal sin, in fact, of being accused of lying under oath. What is the right thing for him to do at this stage, particularly when you consider how the judiciary is also held at high esteem by society?
Well, Unathi, the right thing for him to do was to explain what happened in 2020 when this complaint was filed, because it's been running for close to 5 years now. He was placed on suspension in October of 2020, and the tribunal was not proceeding over all these periods because he was sick. And we're hoping that now that the tribunal is finally underway, he would give an explanation, he would account to the public about why he did what he did. And especially because in all of those 4 years that he was on suspension, he was getting a full salary. So there was an expectation, at least from us, that he would give a full account of what happened. But unfortunately, he's only offered silence. And I think that just makes the situation worse. In fact, the evidence leaders and the complainants were saying that his silence is an aggravating circumstance. It is another reason why impeachment is the only outcome for this. Because if he felt the need to, he felt any guilt or any contrition, he would have offered an explanation and even an apology, and he did none of that. And so for us, the concern is that he has now spent 4 to almost 5 years on suspension, paid a salary of 1.2 million rand a year, and he has the public has gotten zero benefit from it, and he has not even done the honorable thing of an explanation. So that for us is a concern. But the bigger concern is just the way in which he failed on this constitutional application of accountability, giving an explanation, giving reasons. It's something at a bare minimum we expect all judges to do.
Notwithstanding, of course, the seriousness of these charges, I mean, what is it also your concern, given the timeline? I mean, you've mentioned that almost 5 years, and here we are. The tribunal was, established by the JSC to investigate these allegations in October of 2020, as you've rightfully indicated.
Look, the tribunal itself has been running for long, and this is the one situation where we can't put any blame on the Judicial Service Commission. Ordinarily, we are quite critical of the Judicial Service Commission and how its processes take long. But in this one case, every time that the JSC intended to start the process, Judge Parker would offer a medical reason or a health reason for it not proceeding. And so when it eventually got around to hearing the evidence and all the witnesses coming forward, judges of the High Court coming forward to testify against their own, we were expecting that there would be at least some truth in this process. We would hear what exactly happened, because even now, there still is a question of whether or not Judge President Hlophe at the time assaulted Judge Parker, because there are two competing versions. And the tribunal now has a difficult task to find where the truth between those versions is. Either there was an assault or there wasn't an assault. And if there wasn't an assault, then why lie about another judge for almost a year and repeat those lies to other judges and bring the whole judiciary into disrepute? So that for us is the bigger concern in all of this, and which is why we're looking forward to seeing the tribunal report and seeing how they deal with this question, because it will be important for future cases about where are the standards to be drawn when it comes to judges providing misleading evidence. But secondly, there is a question about events that happened before he became a judge. Yeah. And so now, for future cases, we need to know how those will be dealt with, because there may very well be another case where someone is appointed a judge and then the skeletons come out after. Yeah. And so we're looking forward to that tribunal report.
Absolutely. Mbekezeli, thank you so much for painting that picture for us and also for your time. Really do appreciate it.